We got some voicemails, Ian.
All right.
Go to.
All right.
So matter of factly, you go to anchor.fm/the CU podcast. You click record, hopefully a clean mic, and a nice 30-second, 20-second voicemails are my favorite. And you get through them, and hopefully you entertain us, and hopefully we all learn something, Ian. We all learn something. Mm-hmm. We become better people. Here's the first one, if I have it queued up.
This is Duffy from Louisville, Kentucky.
Louisville.
What is the most recent game to have blown your mind? Thanks.
Kirby blew Ian's
Kirby, yeah.
Because he can eat a car and drive around.
Quite literally, Kirby did. It was fun. My mind was blown. I played it high most of the weekend. It was pretty, colorful. It was stupendous.
It was stupendous?
Stupendous.
Pat, Ian, this is Matt from Rochester, New York again. A question for both of you. Ian, do you have any favorite Buffalo Bills or Sabres memories from childhood, even though you're not really into sports? Pat, have you ever considered on YouTube making just a playlist of all the voicemails for the CU podcasts? I like hearing that friend who checks in every week. Also, I want to just give a shout out to Andrew from Ukraine. I do hope you're doing okay over there, friend. I do like hearing from you on this voicemail as well. Thanks. Bye.
The funny thing about that is he actually left his voicemail. This is a cosmic coincidence right after Andrew left his, like in the order.
Oh, really?
I'm dead serious.
That's great. As far as like childhood memories of the sports teams, I vividly remember the Bills comeback against Houston. I mean, one of the most insane.
Is that the one they were down by like 30 points?
One of the most insane football games ever
like
played.
92 or something?
Yeah, I'm going to have to look that one
that's when
up.
Warren Moon was playing, right? On the Oilers?
Let's see.
Yeah, I remember Warren Moon was that. Yeah, that was a nuts one.
Yeah, I can't pull it
I
up
never came.
immediately.
I remember being in the car and listening to it.
Yeah, I mean,
it was like they were down by so many points. Yeah.
So yeah, that was crazy. And then I do remember, so the comeback or the choke, depending on how you want to look at it, NFL playoff game between the Bills and the Houston Oilers played on January 3rd, 1993. Featured the Bills recovering from a 32-point deficit to win in overtime.
Yes.
41-38.
I remember being in the car and listening to that and going home and watching the rest of it. I forget where my father was driving me, but like I couldn't believe
Just an absolutely insane thing to watch.
Yeah.
I watched it live. It remains the largest comeback in NFL history.
Wow.
Just nuts.
That's nuts.
And then I remember my first Sabres game.
Sabres are pretty good. They had Hasek, who was the best goalie for a long time, or one of the best goalies.
I went in like the late 80s, so it wasn't Hasek, but I just remember I remember my uncle and my dad taking me to a Sabres game against the Winnipeg Jets. We lost, but I loved it. I had a lot of fun.
Well, those are the symbols they had in those sweaters were so good in the 80s and 90s.
Yeah.
The flames.
Mm-hmm.
I still want a blue sweater. I love that note. It's great. What was the question for me?
Don't recall.
About
voicemails for the CU podcast.
Oh yeah, the voicemail. Yeah, you know what? I might do a compilation of a certain caller. I might do that. I think people are clamoring for that.
Hey Pat, hey Ian. This is Max calling from Edison, New Jersey. I work at a retro video game store here in Jersey, so I was just curious to know if there are any stores either of you make it a point to visit, either when you go home or when you're out traveling. Thanks, guys.
When there was a video game con in New Jersey, I try to get back to Digital Press because that's
sure
the home base one that I used to go to. Other than that, I don't make it a point to. I always get potentially people saying, "Hey, you should check out this," or offers from some people. It's like there's never time. Unfortunately, it's like you have a week. It's kind of rough to do that. What about you, Ian? Is the ones you try to hit up?
Game stores? No, not really. When I do go home to Buffalo, I always make sure to go to Queen City Books. It was my childhood comic book store. But yeah, the place that I went as a kid in Buffalo, Worldwide Music and Games, ceased existing in early 2000s. So I haven't. Yeah, there's nothing like that for me to go home to.
Hey guys, Jody from Rome, Georgia here. Quick two-parter. Pat, what's your favorite Unreal Tournament weapon? Ian, what's your favorite Monster Hunter weapon? Keep up the great work. Thanks.
You go first, Ian.
Double blades. I always use the 2 daggers.
It's 2 daggers?
Yeah, it's 2 knives. I love it.
Well, here's the thing about Unreal. You can't have a favorite weapon because you got to be competent at all of them because they thought out this fucking thing and balanced the weapons properly. You got to know how to use every weapon. You get the slime gun, use the slime gun for certain situations. You get the flat cannon, use the flat cannon for short to medium range. The fucking 8-ball rocket launcher, that's a good one. Whatever. Sniper rifle, long distance. So, but in all seriousness, I think the Unreal is most famous for the flat cannon. There's never been another weapon like it in any first-person shooter that I know of. At least they did it first, and they did it best. It's basically a glass shard shotgun that fucking tears your ass up at close range.
Nice.
And they did it in such a way that you could like almost feel the impact, like the effect of the sound, and they almost put like a little delay in. I can't explain it. People that play on Unreal know this. When you hit someone up close with it, you see the jibs or gibs, whatever, and giblets. It is gibs, soft G. And they did it in such a way that you really sort of like felt the impact of the weapon up close. Secondary, you shoot the glass ball that then shatters. That's more for medium distance to longer to arc it. But that was always obviously a favorite because it's so satisfying to use that. I was an 8-ball rocket launcher expert though. The 8 balls of rocket launcher, you load up to, what is it, 6 for primary, and secondary it tosses them and bounces them. The bouncing was good to go around corners because you can angle them and bounce off, and you can, if someone's trying to hide, cha-ching, 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 launch in an arc, bounces off and hits them and explodes marvelously. The 8-ball was great. You can also lock on with the 8-ball with the target. If you had it would actually lock on and do a heat sinking thing a little bit. That was a little more difficult to use at short range. God, I love Unreal. Holy shit. Next question here.
Hey, Pat and Ian. This is Dave from Long Island.
Hey, Dave.
I'm wondering, at what point do you guys start to consider yourself game collectors? This is something I've thought about for a while. I never really considered myself a game collector, even though I've spent my whole life buying and playing games. So I'm not really sure where that line is, or what most people even consider it to be. But anyway, that's my question. Keep up the great work, guys.
How do you define that, Ian?
I think it's simple. I think it's defined by if you consider yourself a game collector, you're a game collector. You could have a lot of video games, and it might just be a passive thing that you do. You're not super into the hobby, and you wouldn't consider yourself a collector. Meanwhile, you could have a small collection, but it's highly curated, and you consider yourself a collector. I think it's fine. You can decide that.
I think I'll go to a basic but maybe somewhat flawed premise on this one. I think you become a collector of really anything when you set out to buy something that not for its intended purpose. That's probably more of a generic way, but if you're gonna,
I don't agree, because
I said it could be flawed. Can I get space to talk about it, Ian?
Sure, but
okay. So if I'm setting out to buy games and I don't have the intent to play them, maybe I just want to display them, or I want to just have them for a curiosity's sake, I think at that point I'm now a collector. If I'm going out and I'm getting, I don't know, how do you use baseball cards? That's a bad example. If I'm getting comic books, Ian, with I don't want to read them. I just want to have them. I think at that point I become a collector. I think that's like sort of like where you sort of go off the exit ramp, at least to me.
I think that's one definition of a collector. Yeah. However, plenty of collectors play their games, read their comics, listen to their music.
No, I'm not saying they're mutually exclusive, but that's when you become a collector. Not saying collectors don't. I'm a collector, I play games. Like I'm saying that's when you become not just what you were before you're a collector.
Sure.
So you're both. Give me that look. Give me the Ian side eye there. All right, we'll do a few more here.
Hello, Pat. Hello, Ian. It's Andrew from Bath in England, a town named after the thermal springs and not the other way around. The PlayStation Vita. I picked one up the other day. Prices of the games is crazy. Small library, but man, it's pricey. What is your opinion on collecting for the PlayStation Vita? Thank you.
I think it's going to become a rich man's hobby real soon.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, the games are already getting expensive. There is a lot of good stuff on the Vita, but lots and lots of that physical library is made up of limited run stuff. And this was at a time where limited run wasn't doing open pre-orders, so you've only got what they were able to produce. The good news is a lot of those games were downloadable games. A lot of them got releases on PS3, Vita. They got PC releases. So a lot of those games started as digital games. I think it would be more likely that we would see some of those. There's other ways to play them, is what I'm getting at. They're not locked and lost into the Vita forever. Now, I'm sure there are games that are Vita only that are, that you might only. But I'm just saying a lot of that physical library stemmed from digital games that were made physical by a company like Limited Run that loves physical products. So I don't think playing the games is going to be hard, but if you actually want to collect for the system, yeah, it's going to get expensive.
Do you think Limited Run helped create some collectors for the system, being that they helped put out these games way after?
Oh, I mean, yeah, absolutely. If they didn't, it would have been an even smaller library, and I think a lot of people who physically collect would have abandoned the system a lot sooner.
It's like they had no interest in it anymore.
Hey, Pat and Ian. Dahlia from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Love the podcast. I'll keep it short and sweet. Are there any survival horror games from any generation that made an impression on you? Or alternatively, what's your favorite scary movie? Thanks, guys.
So my favorite scary movie changes a lot, but it's not scary to me anymore. But The Thing is probably my favorite horror movie at the moment. And as far as survival horror games, if you count, well, what the fuck is it called? Criminal Origins. What is the game? Condemned Criminal Origins on the 360. And that only exists on the 360. I don't know if there's a PC version of it. It was not on the PS3. Fantastic horror game. From a first-person perspective, there are some melee, or there are some ranged weapons, but very few and far between. A lot of the game is hand-to-hand, and there's blocking and striking. So you have to kind of like confront these creatures. Like, you have to go hand-to-hand and get into it. Really great atmosphere. One of my favorite games. I love it, and it's not a super easy one to play because it was only on the 360 to my knowledge.
Resident Evil 4 is fantastic.
Sure.
That's a masterpiece. What else can you say about it? It's like a near perfect game.
That's great.
Resident Evil 4. And obviously there's action elements in it, but no, there's legitimately scary moments in that game, especially the first time you go through. It was scary when you get to the town and like all the doors fucking close, and then like they send a swarm after you. You got like go in the house and fend them off. I was like, well, this is terrifying. This actually happened. And I remember that being so hard to beat that. Like, it was just like, it was manic.
It didn't feel like a video game sequence to me because you suddenly have this, I don't know, it didn't feel super scripted because you suddenly have this entire village going after you. And while there are definitely good ways to get out of it, it was interesting to play that to me because it was kind of like there was no hand holding. It was like you just have to survive.
Yeah, that's fairly early in the game.
Yeah, it's
20 minutes or whatever.
It's like the first main part of the game.
Yeah, like that's like this is like okay, this is for real. That's why there's no ramp up. It's like okay, fend off like 50 guys and women coming after you.
Yep.
Let alone the fucking chainsaw guy is always scary. Chainsaw, you gotta get that guy quick in the head. You can't shoot him in the gut. Pot of sweet in the gut. Surprise him.
Hi Pat and Ian, it's Andrew from the UK here. With the recent announcement of the Cowabunga collection, which I'm really excited for, interested to hear what you guys think of the previous Turtles games. Obviously the infamous NES game and some of the classics like Turtles in Time. And also would like to know who your favourite turtle is and why. Cheers guys, and keep up the great work.
Well, Andrew, I'm not sure what this NES thing is, but on the NES, I love the original Ninja Turtles.
Yeah, I do too. It's a hard game, but I enjoy it. It's fun. I think it's interesting. I like most of the Turtles games in one way, shape, or form. I don't like the NES arcade game.
No.
We covered this. I like the Game Boy games. Pat thinks the first one's too simple. But I mean, overall, it's a great looking collection. As far as my favorite turtle, when I was younger, and in the movies, I like Donnie. I like Donnie because he's the nerd. I like him. He's good with machines. However, and this is not always a popular answer, but if we're just going based on the initial Mirage run of Turtles comics, I love Leonardo. He's badass. He's fucking awesome. I love him.
I was always team Raph. I was always a Raph guy. Sort of like the underdog-ish, sort of like little sarcastic personality, always trying to prove himself. You know, I always identify with Raph more than anything. I always hated Michelangelo, even especially on the cartoons. Michelangelo was insufferable to me.
Comics made him for me too, but he's not one of my favorites.
I hated
when he gets his
cat.
Shit. When he gets his cat in the comics,
he gets a cat.
He gets a cat named Clunk in the comics.
Oh, they should have put that in the cartoon.
And it's amazing. But the difference is like in the cartoons, Leonardo was the leader because he was the annoying, naggy one. In the comics, he was the leader because he was a fucking leader. That's why I liked him.
They showed his badassery in the cartoons a little bit, at least initially. Then they watered him down. Yeah. I remember originally he wanted to kill Shredder in the original like miniseries. Sure. It's like, let's go finish him. And I was like, oh yeah, you don't want to fuck with Leonardo. But then they got to water it down because kids can't take it when we can. Yeah, that always annoyed me. Let alone they never used their weapons after a certain point in time on anything. Let's slice down a chandelier to hit the foot soldiers. Like, come on. I guess they showed up slicing up robots and stuff, but like never they never hit a person with a nunchuck. That was always a point. Then didn't they get rid of the nunchucks in one of the cartoons? They replaced like the nunchucks with something. I'm pretty sure they did that. One of the 90s iterations because they didn't want kids to be too violent. Can we stop? Did you ever have foam nunchucks? I had a foam nunchucks. We all did in the late 80s.
Absolutely did.
It was the time of the ninja. Brought that shit to school for Halloween. Didn't get in trouble. Yeah, back in my day. All right, you want to do check in with someone else here?
Yeah.
This is what the menu screen looks like in Hungarian.
Hey, it's Tony.
This is what
Tommy doesn't know I'm recording right now, but my friends just came over and he started showing him all the different languages for this Amico thing. This has been going on for like 45 minutes now. I mean,
this is what it looks like in Elven. This is what it looks like in Pig Latin.
Tom,
what?
I think the guys want to go get a drink now.
But I'm not finished yet.
Oh, Madonna Santissima.
This is what it looks like in Morse code. This is what it looks like in Morse code. Braille.
What? Okay, I gotta hang up now. It probably can't even record much longer.
In Canadian.
Ciao.
This is...
There's a lot of languages on that Amico.
There sure are.
There's sure. I think I heard Macedonian, Cherokee. Not a lot of Cherokee speakers out there, but hey, if you speak Cherokee, the Amico's for you.
It's for you.
Macedonian.
It's not for a lot of people, but it is for you.
They're going to target the Cherokee and Macedonian audience.
That's right.
On that.